Hello, everyone. I'm just going to give you an overview of the workbook and kind of an introduction or orientation to how um, these videos are laid out and kind of the structure of them, how to approach them, how to utilize them, all that fun stuff. So ideally, the way we would like this to work, if possible, is that you have obviously both these videos and a physical copy of the workbook, because then you can go through and, go through it as we go through it and step by step and look at it and be able to, write your answers in all the provided spaces and create your action plan at the end and all that kind of stuff. But if for whatever reason you don't have that, if you just have a PDF of it or just using these videos, at least maybe just get some sort of, blank notebook that or something that you're going to dedicate to a journal or something you're going to dedicate to walking in balance, so that you can write all your answers and kind of make it, flow as you go along, because you're going to use the answers that you write in each section to create an action plan for yourself at the end. And also, just to give you a heads up on that, we'll explain the personalized action plan at the end, but I just want to let you know up front before you get into these that you can do it all at the end if you want. You can also do it as you go. So if you want to kind of work ahead and like through each, like for example, once you get done with the wellness section, you can go ahead and turn to the personalized action plan and write in there like what your main takeaways are for that section, what you want to work on implementing, habits you want to change, implement, get rid of, that kind of stuff. So you can either do that as you go or you can do it at the very end, whatever works for you. But in general, just if you don't have a workbook, just at least have something that you're dedicating to this to write in, so that you can keep it all together. Because we want you to be able to, at the end goal of this is for you to not just have a whole lot more of information in your head, but also like have, a structured way of actually implementing it, knowing what to do with it to move forward and not being overwhelmed by it. So, all right, so I'm just going to give you an overview of kind of what is in the workbook, how it's structured, and then we'll go into what the videos are going to look like. So here's the title. I'm going to stop really quick and read this dedication because I think it's really important, and a lot of people will just open the workbook and probably move right past it, and I don't want you to do that. I want you to read it, so I'm going to read it to you. So this work is for those who are healing, who carry the weight of history yet choose to move forward with love and strength. For our people whose stories and wisdom have been too long overlooked, may this be a step toward honoring what was lost and reclaiming what is ours. In a world shaped by old systems, may we find ways to break free from the patterns that no longer serve us. May this work support the rebuilding of community rooted in respect, justice, and care for one another. And with gratitude for the ancestors who paved the way and hope for the generations who will walk beside us, may this be a light guiding us all toward a better future. All right, so we have the table of contents. Goes over all the different principles that are involved in walking in balance and the implementation tools. The introduction, just explaining what walking in balance is and where it comes from, the cultural um, basis for that. And then, which Abraham will explain more in a different video, so I'm just going to give you an overview of what the wellness section looks like, because once you understand this structure, it's the same for the rest of the principles. So for every principle, we have the cultural teaching first, because that's what this is mainly rooted in. And then we have the supporting psychological knowledge. So that's all the sciencey psychology stuff that backs up what Abraham is saying with the cultural pieces, different tips. And then the practical application section is, all right, now that we've talked about the cultural aspects of these principles and the scientific aspects of these principles, how do we actually implement them, right? Like, how do we apply this to our lives? So the practical application sections have a combinations of questions to ask yourself, and hopefully, if nothing else, to answer them out loud, but hopefully you're writing them down in the workbook or somewhere else, and also just tips as well. So it's not all questions. Some of them are like lists of tips and things you can tools you can start to use, start to implement. So like I said, and then there's always notes at the end of every section too. But that's so same structure. So for mindfulness, we got cultural teaching and then psychology and then the practical applications and the notes. And it just goes like that for all the principles. I'm going to fast forward through all this. Sorry if that is visually overwhelming. It's a lot of text. And then we get to after balance, which is the last principle, we get to the implementation section. And so this is that personalized action plan I referenced earlier that you can start working on as you go if you want, or wait till the end. And then we have different tools that go along with that, which we'll explain later. And that's pretty much the workbook. And so the way that we've structured these videos is that so obviously we don't just want to scroll through all of this because that would be kind of a lot. So we put all the information from the workbook into slides to make it a little easier and more visually appealing, less overwhelming to go through it. But the way it works is we want everybody to actually read/listen to all the information that's in the workbook, right? And not everybody has I'm trying to make this as friendly to different learning styles and neurotypes as possible. To a lot of people, to just open up the workbook and just look at all those words is visually overwhelming and will immediately stop them from being able to engage in it. Also, some people have dyslexia and have a hard time reading and comprehending just, in that visual way and need the audio component as well. Some people just want to listen to the audio part and don't want to look at it, so that's why we're making sure to give you both the visual through the workbook and also the slides and also the audio part of us reading it. So all that being said, we are reading from the slides, and that's on purpose. We're trying to give you kind of like an audio book version of the workbook and then add things as well. So we're not just reading. We're also adding, especially for the parts that I do, I'm adding more information on top of what I'm like, making sure that we read everything that's in the workbook, but then also, having discussion and adding other things too. So like in the practical application section, I'm not just reading the questions and the tips, I'm giving you examples of what this would look like for me. And that's really important to note because the examples that I give, like I'm just trying to give y'all an idea of what it would look like to answer those questions potentially. And my answers are not going to be your answers, obviously. So I'm not trying to make this all about me or give you all the details of my life. I just, want to model vulnerability. Because when everybody else goes through this, especially if you're doing it in a group setting, you don't have to share anything that you don't want to, but you might be encouraged or feel okay with sharing some stuff out loud. And it's good to be vulnerable in a safe way and share, with your fellow peers and whatnot. So I'm trying to model that and also to give you an example of what it would look like to answer some of those questions if it makes it easier. But ultimately, it's not about listening to my answers. It's about pausing and answering it for yourself. So don't just listen to what I have to say, pause it and answer that question for you so that you can really start to personalize this and implement it into your own life. Speaking of me reading a lot, like I talked about in the introduction, I have several cognitive challenges. I'm autistic and I'm not only autistic, but I'm also been dealing with autistic burnout for many years now. And I have ADHD. And with that comes some articulation problems. Sometimes I'm sure other people experience this too, but sometimes I'll be reading something out loud. And while I'm reading it, my brain is giving me a TED talk about something else. And so sometimes I'll forget what I'm saying or where I was going with that. My brain is very hyperactive, or sometimes I have tongue-tied issues and I'll like mess up a word or say the wrong word or whatever. I say a lot. I say a lot. I say so a lot. And that's okay. None of those things are a problem. Hopefully it's not distracting to you, of course, but another thing I'm trying to model is just being imperfect and not this doesn't need to be this is for everybody, right? This is not supposed to be some like super perfect, polished, very fancy thing. This is just I just want this to get out to the most amount of people and to be as easy to understand and down to earth. And it's okay to make errors. It's okay for me to make errors. It's okay for you to make errors. Always. And so we're just gonna roll with that. So I tried really hard not to re-record things a million times and just to let the errors be in there and move on. But just bear with me on that stuff because I do struggle with articulation sometimes. I'm like Michael Scott, for those of you who've seen The Office. Sometimes I start a sentence. I'm gonna butcher this quote. I'm just gonna paraphrase, but sometimes I start a sentence and I don't know where it's going, and I hope I find it along the way. So let's see, we talked about other things to keep in mind too are there may be issues with sound. I'm not a high-tech person. I wish I was. I'm trying to get better about it, but I roll with technology in the best way that I can. So I'm producing this in a very low tech way, with the tools that I have available to me. So there definitely could be sound issues. I've tried to minimize background noise. Hopefully there's nothing too distracting, but you might hear some cat toys in the background or some cats running around, or something like that. So my apologies if that's the case. If anything's too distracting, let me know and I'll try to fix it. And also randomly, I've noticed in the videos, there's cursors everywhere. I don't know how that happened, y'all. I don't understand the mysterious duplicating cursors, the little from the mouse that are everywhere on the screen. I don't I don't know how that happened, and I'm not going to worry about it. So just let it be what it is. But I think that's pretty much it. If you have any other questions about how to understand the format of this, feel free to reach out to me and ask, and I'll do my best to help you out.